talk about what it means to have Saturn in Capricorn. And let's start with understanding that Capricorn is an earth element, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn naturally. So any planet that comes into Capricorn is going to show the qualities, one of Capricorn and then two of the planet. So you kind of have to analyze both together, right? So first understand that being an earth element, these people will be grounded in whatever house this is in. So they will be very practical, they'll be diligent, logical, they might be over analytical, very studious, they're already representing all things that are ruled by Saturn, right? And Capricorn can have this darker demeanor, colors that can be associated with Capricorn or like dark blues, grays, even maybe like certain metals. So even though it's an earth sign, it's like the dirt, you know, it's everything that is like moist and dark and serves as a function. They're very practical. Capricorn wants to achieve stability. So if you bring a planet that into an area that is already ruled by that planet, in this case, Saturn and Saturn are friends. This is a beneficial aspect. So it's going to make, it's probably one of the better placements to have Saturn, which is already a difficult, karmic, heavy nature. You know, we understand the karmas of the planet Saturn being the thing that you must overcome in life. So it's so important to understand where this placement is. It's sort of like walking in wet clothing, or like being on a hike and just having to carry all of this weight. You just have to do it to get from point A to point B. So if you have this placement, one, you're fortunate to have it in whatever house that you have it in. You know, aside from all aspects that could change this, but whatever house this combination is in, for example, Scorpio ascendants will naturally have Capricorn in their third house, because Scorpio ascendant would be the first house, the second house would be ruled by Sagittarius, and the third house would be ruled by Capricorn. So all Scorpio rising signs or all Scorpio ascendant people have a natural rulership of Capricorn, of Saturn in their third house. This is why they also come off as being a little cold and calculating, especially to people they don't know. They don't want to open up. That's a natural indicator of the third house. The third house is the house of communication, right? So this might not always be in that specific placement, but that's an example. So back to Saturn in Capricorn. So this is going to present as someone who comes off as being very articulate, very calculating, and they like to be in order. This is someone who would be a planner. They like to have objectives. They'll probably use a calendar make a lot of lists, write things out. And again, you have to see what houses these are in, but this is just a characterization. Because they're so goal-oriented, even though, here's the thing, Saturn will make these people work so hard for whatever house this Capricorn is in. And while they're working this hard, it's actually going to end up benefiting them in the long term. So before they have their Saturn return, they're going to probably struggle a lot with anything that is related to this house. So if it was the third house, they might struggle with communication or certain forms of communication. And if it was in the fifth house, they might struggle to be openly expressive. But after this return, because they're so disciplined and because they have the benefit of the difficult karma, that's what they've always been working on, and they will receive success, even more success than they would have naturally with just a Capricorn ruled house, because they have the benefit of Saturn's karma blessing them in return. So the difficult aspects about having this combination would be that these people can be overtly critical and very focused on their goals, very focused on their ambitions, and ultimately, because they have this makes someone have like very high principles, very high morals, and because they have this rigidity in their structure, they tend to follow the rules and they want to achieve success, but in an honest way. They like to follow rules, They don't really want to, because they're so principled, so they just want to do things right, and have everything be accounted for. So another con about this specific character is that they may be somewhat reclusive or a little bit cold, a little bit distant, and this will shift as they enter their 30s, probably, depending on what's going on. But once that Saturn return ends, they're going to be able to work through that, whatever they've been working on crafting. They've probably, let's say they were in school, they've probably been very studious. They're most likely going to be a student who finishes their work, who is always on time or always early. They're overly prepared. This is going to be the person who offers you extra pen and paper. This is the person you're going to probably get your notes from because they're so organized, and they're supremely reliable, but because internally they might not show you, because they're always calculating, they're always accounting for things. If they haven't achieved success at a certain age, or if they have not fulfilled their goals, they're always driven by goals. they're gonna experience probably an intense depression or just some sort of, could be a loneliness, but that will end up fading. Again, that will end up fading once they pass through the return of this planet. So let's make sure we have everything. If these, you know, you can't necessarily determine someone's career by this placement alone, but since it's such a strong duality to have, it's just a strong pair, it's gonna really, you're gonna see this manifest in a lot of ways that they work, and it'll probably manifest in a lot of ways. Like if you were to, everything that they do is going to have a method to it. So they probably are very specific about how they keep things, how they work. They want to work with these, a set of guidelines, because at the end of the day, Saturn's objective is efficiency. Saturn wants to, especially in Capricorn, wants to make sure that everything has been done. So they're going to check their work over and over and over and over and over and over again. They're going to look back, they're going to look back, they're going to look back. They're the person who will listen to a lecture probably more than anyone else in the class. And even if they're not the smartest person in the class, they're going to put in like the most amount of time just because they have this doubled aspect, you know. Again, this leads to great musicianship, people who studied law. Law requires you to be able to recite something over and over. You have to go over it multiple times to understand it. And you're always reflecting on this set of principles, you know, on this doctrine. So as long as there's some sense of organization and classification in the things that they are pursuing, it doesn't matter what it is, they will find order to everything that they do. Like, the reason why they drive down a certain road, there's a reason for it. The reason why they do their laundry a certain way, there's a reason for it. Everything has an order, and is probably they're gonna rule out options, like too many options. They're gonna over-classify everything. So it can be, being around someone like this might be a little bit exhausting in a way, or working for someone like this could be difficult, particularly if they are not the ones that are in charge. If they have a team that works around them, they're gonna know that this person is they have to have things in a certain way, or they might, depending on the other placements, you know, they might not handle certain pressures very well. So fields that require a lot of organization, classification, law, method, science, any sort of fields of research and medicine, definitely really helpful. It gives them structure, and it gives them an environment where they can naturally be who they are. Even like, let's think about what is that? Like anyone who works in maybe like an area of protocol, like, I don't know what, like a safety and guideline, someone who handles safety and guidelines, or maybe like standard precautions, someone who teaches standard precautions, maybe just a teacher naturally. They'd probably make really great teachers because they're so methodical and they've gone through information in so many different ways. They're going to be great at understanding how to classify information in different ways and how to give it to a large audience, probably. Not necessarily, your Mercury placement also has a lot to do with this, but they are deeply driven and likely to be stand out in whatever they do. They will reach success, probably a lot of success, because they're so focused on work. They're workaholics, they're overachievers, and people in their life could even see them as being a little too obsessed with their achievements or just their own life, because they really are relentless in achieving their goals, and in the end there's no way that they won't benefit, because the blessing of Saturn will end up revealing itself. So yeah, they'll end up getting whatever placement, whatever house this placement is in, they will end up getting the success of that house. So if this was in the 5th house and they were an artist, they would someday reach some sort of success in that field. If they were Scorpio rising and they had this in their 3rd house, they would eventually reach success in communications. People will eventually recognize them as being someone who's capable and learned in these fields, or even if this was in the 9th house, they could end up being great teachers or great spiritual teachers, great leaders, or philosophers of any kind. So it's a really wonderful placement to have. Okay, and that's it. Thank you.